now that we have all of the uppercase letters, which we're only going to use the uppercase when we write like a graphic novelist, let's create some lowercase letters so that you then have them should you need them. Now, what I want you to notice is we use the same attributes here. The same attributes that we used for uppercase, including the stem and the ellipse, is going to be found in all of these letters as well. And what you'll notice is there are a lot more straight line letters in the uppercase architect, and the lowercase letters have a lot more curved. So you need to go slower to get this just right. Also notice how much smaller these letters are. Let's start with the letter A. We're only going to use about a half to 2/3 of the box. The B is going to have a nice long stem. Keep your pencil right where it is and come up and over. Your C, again, is not going to at all be close to filling the box. The D is like the A. Bring the stem down to meet it. The E is like the C. Now, when we get to that F, I want you to look back at our J and see it has a bit of a hook there. We're going to do a similar hook here, but it's going to be in a smaller form. And remember, when you cross the F and when you cross the T, the right side can be longer than the left. With the letter G, we're sort of combining the A and then the upside down F. This can be more flat or a hook, whatever you decide to do, just be as consistent as you can. H has a stem, and notice that we come up halfway before coming over and back down. This is the H like we wrote in the Intro to Lettering series based on italic. Your I is going to be about half the size. Make that I the same height as what you've done here for your H. And then your tittle, the little dot that goes above it, is going to be between here and the top. When you go to make your J, it's the bottom part of the G, so it's just the stem and the or the descender. The J is the stem and the descender. With the K, we're going to have that nice tall stem, but then the bottom half is going to have the diagonal line, and remember, this kicks out like it's kicking the kickball. The lowercase L looks like a lowercase I. And then with the M, again, it's that half size. You come up and over and down, come up halfway, branch over, and then down. And same goes for the letter N. Looks like an H with the top, the ascender cut off. Your O is the same as your capital O, just smaller. The letter P has a stem that has a descender. You can trace back up. I want you to start at that baseline when you go to make your ellipse. And with the Q, it looks like the A with the stem that comes down. Now the R, I want you to notice that the R, and you might trace it if you want, it's like that N, but it stops early. So you have the stem, you come up and over and just stop. And with the S, however you drew your uppercase S, go ahead and draw your lowercase s. And you might want to try it a few times. Another trick is go ahead and draw those small ellipses and decide which is the right S for you. With the letter T, we're going to look at the letter F. We're going to bring our stem down and then hook back up. Remember that the stem of this letter isn't as tall as the F or the L, it's shorter. And our crossbar is going to be shorter on the left than it is the right. And notice how high it is. It's right there along with that X height. With the letter U, it looks like an upside down N. The letter V takes up just a part of that box. The lowercase w, I still write all strokes going down. That looks a little, well, little. Let me do another one. You don't want it to get too wide, but you want each one of these lines, you want this to be a little bit more, each of these sets of lines to be a little bit more narrow than the V, and you want your first and your third lines to be parallel and your second and your fourth lines to be parallel. Remember the letter X? The Y in this case looks like a U and a J come together. And then the letter Z or Z. And notice that it can be at an angle like this, or it can be more straight. It's up to you. Now let's get to the numbers. What I want to show you about the numbers is that the capital letters are going to be 1 box high. The lowercase letters are about 1/2 to 2/3, and the numbers kind of live a little bit higher, so they're about 3/4 of the height. So the number 1 is a stem with just a little piece that comes out like this. And if you want, you can trace these before you write them below. Notice that 2 is almost like that ellipse, but doesn't quite finish. And start to see all of the ellipses within these shapes. Okay? We'll draw these together. The 2 is going to come around the bottom and then come out. The 3 is going to have a smaller ellipse at the top and a larger ellipse at the bottom, much like the letter B. The 4 can be straight. Now the 5 has just a slight bit of a slant on the stem and then comes around to make that ellipse. And then the crossbar goes ahead and goes straight to the right. Your 6 is like an ellipse inside of an ellipse, but they point up a little bit higher than that 45-degree angle. That 7 is straight across and then has a slight curve, but definitely comes down at an angle. Your number 8 is like your 3, but it's more complete. It has a small ellipse at the top, a larger one at the bottom. Your number 9 is a medium-sized ellipse with a stem. And the number 0 is actually going to be more narrow than the O. And you can write it at a slight slant, just as long as you don't get too wide. Now let's go for the glyphs. A great way to practice is if you happen to have a keyboard, your glyphs are all the characters that are at the top of your keyboard. So I've done some of these here for you, and these are the most used ones. Let's go ahead and do those. So we've got the question mark, which is like an ellipse or an ear with a tittle at the bottom. We've got a stem that ends short with a tittle at the bottom for the exclamation point. And the number symbol is whatever S you usually make, whether it's big at the top and little at the bottom, little at the top, big at the bottom, or equal. You're just going to put 2 short vertical lines at the top and the bottom. And you might look at this and go, which one do you like? I don't really like that one so much, but this one's probably my favorite, the first one. But it's totally up to you. Then when it comes to making a hashtag mark, I'm just going to put these, I'm just going to lightly make my box here. I'm going to make my crossbars very straight and to the right, and then my up and down is going to come at a slight angle like that. And notice how it's smaller inside of the box. Now, if we make the @ symbol, it looks like a small A, but then it comes back and wraps around. So this would be an ellipse all on its own with an A inside. But we start with the A and then go around. So you want to start with a very small A. Now I want to show you the ampersand. This is super fun. This is your and symbol in Architect. And of course, you can make this however you want it. If you were to do an internet search on ampersands, you'll find lots of different ones. So you're going to start out by making a backwards 7. And then you're going to add like a small C with a really long tail. And what that's going to end up looking like is a backwards 7 and a small C with a tail that comes up. That's your ampersand. And again, there's lots of different ways to do it. When you go to make your asterisk, you're going to make your horizontal line first, and then you're going to make an X. And that's all there is to an asterisk. Actually, that's a little bit higher there. We want to get really picky. Everything's going to cross right in the center, and it's only 3 lines, and it has 3 lines coming out. Now I want you to write your name or anybody's name, and if you have a lot more room on your paper, you can write a whole bunch of names. Also know that at the back of your book on page 10 and 11, there's a whole bunch more grid spaces, so you can practice there as well. But practicing names, remember, this is a great way to practice your uppercase, your lowercase, and then the spacing in between. We do optical spacing, remember. So we're not trying to make a letter per box. We're actually writing the spaces in between are more equal than that because each letter has its own shape. And if you were to write your teacher's name, and it might be Ms. or Mr., practicing writing that M next to a lowercase letter is going to be a skill you're going to want to repeat. Oops, that S is more like an italic S and less like an architect S. See the style difference there? Great job lettering, my friends. You've just learned the basics on how to write like an architect. Remember, this style takes practice, so don't worry if it's imperfect. Perfectionism weakens your superpowers, and we don't want that. Now, I challenge you to write more names in this architect lettering style and show it to your friends and your family. I'm so proud of you for all the effort you've put in today, and I can't wait to see what you create next. Remember, we're going to use this style as a foundation to our graphic novelist style in the next session. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy lettering.